Let me get comfortable. Okay, I have ADHD. This is not a secret, has not been a secret. In fact, I have vlogged the process of, getting assessed and all of that kind of stuff, finding out last summer. I wanted to create this video because, as you guys know, I'm a therapist, I'm a business owner, I am a content creator, and I still struggle with a lot of these things. And I know that there's probably people who are in similar positions, who might have similar careers, similar career aspirations, and maybe struggling with the same thing. I always find it really helpful when I can see people who are struggling with similar things that I am, as well as in similar positions in life. So I wanted to open up to you guys and talk about it a little bit. I thought a lot about the way I want to structure this video, and I think I want to mostly focus on how I found out and how it looks in my day-to-day life, both back then and now. A lot of the ADHD symptoms I kind of just attributed to my personality. I am definitely someone who can be a little bit impulsive. I'm definitely someone who is really emotional and really sensitive. I definitely get bored a lot. I have a terrible memory. I am highly distractible. So all of these things I kind of just attributed to quirks of my personality. And to be quite honest, a lot of these things didn't really give me much trouble until I started my business. So I think that had I not started a business, had I continued 9-to-5 life, I probably would have been relatively okay. Maybe not, but who knows. I've always struggled with school, not in the sense of like learning per se, but in the sense of just extreme boredom. So when something is not interesting to me, when I don't like something, I find it excruciatingly painful to get something done. I'm sure that there are experiences and behaviors throughout my childhood, growing up, throughout high school, that points to like, okay, yes, you do have ADHD, but education wasn't as accessible back then. ADHD wasn't really as big of a diagnosis back then. A few behaviors stand out to me as completely abnormal. So number one, I would lose my bank card all the time. I would lose my house keys all the time. I would always forget to close the garage when I was leaving the house or lock the door. And that just drove my parents crazy. And it wasn't just because I just didn't care about where these things were going. It was that I quite literally could not remember any time I put something down. I couldn't remember. One memory in particular I can tell you is about my bank card. So I'm in Canada. The bank that I personally use, they count the amount of bank cards that you've had with that specific account number. They put that number on the bank card. And I've been with the same bank since I started banking as a child. And so granted, I haven't lost my bank card in a long time, probably at least between 5 and 7 years. And I'm about to turn 29 this year. This is the number on my bank card, 48. I've gone through 48 bank cards in my lifetime. And more specifically, 48 cards probably between the ages of 12 and 19. So I think that's something substantial in itself of like, come on, get it together, Simone. But it's really the brain. As I said, my symptoms personally weren't debilitating until I started my business. So before, I was always working within organizations and always had coworkers around me. So I had kind of that external accountability, which I found really, really helpful and didn't really know it at the time. So if, I had things on my calendar that I had to do, whether it was meetings, whatever, there was people always around me to remind me of things, or people that I was meeting with in person at work. I've been super lucky to work with people who are really understanding. So most people who have worked with me in organizations have known that emails I really just struggle with. So there's times where I just straight up will read an email and not remember it. I just don't see emails sometimes, all of those things. But people have been super accommodating and just will remind me of these things, whatever it is. But it's so different when you own your own business because you are your own accountability. A year before I opened my business, I had a taste of internal accountability, because that was when the pandemic hit and we started working from home a little bit more. And I struggled with that. Although I like the flexibility of being at home, working from home was just a nightmare for me because I couldn't get anything done. One of the gifts and curses of ADHD is the ability to hyperfocus, and that's just focus intensely on, one or a few specific things and have tunnel vision. And that's kind of how my business started. So I had this vision for a social media page, a psychoeducational page, and I was just pumping out content like a machine. That was my focus, and I was so excited about it. I was so focused on it. And that's kind of how my business came to life. So I'm super grateful for the ability to do that. At the same time, the difficult thing about hyperfocus is that anything that is in the background that you're not interested in falls to the wayside. So if you fast forward to when I actually opened my business, things started out okay at first. I was still in my hyperfocus state. For me, the things that excite me are things that are very aesthetically pleasing, are things that take a lot of creativity, things that I can build kind of from start to finish, like a website or a book or whatever it is. Things that I dislike and quite honestly disdain are monotonous activity, like doing case notes as a therapist, or emails, or organizing things like files, like receipts, any of those things. All the things that you absolutely need when you own a business. So very quickly, the administrative, operational side of the business started to ramp up, and the creative pieces started to ramp down, which I really struggled with. So scheduling, I struggled a lot with in terms of just remembering things. So I was working both in person and online, and I just found it really difficult trying to manage a schedule where I didn't know when I was going to necessarily be in person because I didn't schedule myself well. My schedule in general just started to overwhelm me. I was being forgetful about emails, about different things, and it was just really, really, really hard. And you may or may not know that anxiety and depression is super common amongst folks who have ADHD. And typically the reason is because of ADHD symptoms causing a lot of the anxiety and depression. And I experienced that as well. So much anxiety over not really understanding how to work with myself in the best way in order to be productive, in order to have a good quality of life, all of those things. And so I would kind of cycle through anxiety and depression and then being okay, and then rinse, repeat. One of the largest things that I struggled with and still struggle with to some extent is a sense of overwhelm. So the way that I've described it to my friends, my family, my partner is that you're trying to find an outfit, but all the clothes that you own are on the floor in a pile. So you know that you have some sort of outfit that you can make out of all of these clothes or pieces of these clothes, but you don't even know where to start. Whereas if maybe I'm having a really good day, or I'm like in a good routine, or I'm on meds, then it feels like all the clothes are hung up and I can kind of look through things and find the outfit. So that's how I felt, I would say a good 60 to 70% of the time at the beginning of starting my business was clothes on the floor, always. There's lots of things I need to do. I don't know what to do. I can't even access the thoughts. I just know that there's a lot to do. There's lots of things to think about. I don't even know what to start thinking about. I just know that there's thoughts to be had. And then when mistakes are inevitably made, because you're running a business and of course you're gonna make mistakes, that's just part of the process, that would cause me a lot of anxiety and cause me to be really, really, really hard on myself as well. So I think that that entire process was just really difficult for me and on me for at least the first year and a half, I would say. I didn't consider ADHD at all until I started reading more about it for clients, and I started seeing a lot more things on social media about it. Once I started to do my own research, I was kind of like, okay, I feel like there's a pretty big chance that this is something that I'm experiencing, and so I started to go through the process. Although I will say I dragged my feet a lot, knowing that for me in Canada, the process was I had to go through my family doctor and then get referred to a psychiatrist, which the whole process takes quite a few months. So I was definitely dragging my feet on even getting started on like getting a family doctor to begin with. But eventually when I did do it, the process took about, I would say about 3.5 months from the time that I saw my family doctor about it and then gotten to see a psychiatrist. You're probably thinking, okay, are you on medication? What's helping you? What's the situation now? So I was prescribed Vyvanse 20 milligrams back in September. It works. It works. It hangs up all the clothes. I'm not even gonna pretend that it doesn't work. I think that there is a lot of internalized ableism that I have to work through, and a lot of different other factors as well. I think that although prior to seeing a psychiatrist, I was like, I would do absolutely anything to not feel like this. After experiencing the medication, I think I experienced a lot of shame around why is it so easy with medication? And it might not make logical sense, but emotionally I was like, okay, why can't my brain just do this by itself? Like, why do I need medication for this? So there was a lot of times, and still are a lot of times, where I'll just be like, if you just try hard enough, you can do the same things as you are when you're medicated. And it's just not the case. Even though I try to convince myself of that time and time again, I think that I think probably the root of it is a feeling of lack of control. I don't want to feel like I have to take medication, and I think that's a grieving process in itself. I talked to one of my friends about it though, and the way that she framed it was that, you know, as much as it's unfair, it's similar to people who have to like wear glasses, for example. Would it be nice if their eyes worked in the sense of like they had 20/20 vision, they didn't need contacts, glasses, whatever it is? Yes, that would be amazing. Do they want to have to wear glasses or contacts? Probably not. They would probably rather wake up and be able to see clearly. But the harsh reality is that you need contacts, you need glasses in order to see. And I think that reframed it for me a little bit, and it's still something that I'm working through. But one of my goals is to just start being honest with myself about some of these things, because I think that the days, multiple days, where I don't take medication and I just try my hardest, if it doesn't work out, then there's an immense amount of shame that comes with it. So I think that the emotional impacts of trying to force myself to not take medication is much more difficult. The other barrier for me taking medication is I am an anxious person, and I start getting anxiety about what if I'm not going to be able to sleep. Because Vyvanse for my particular body lasts about 14 hours. And I know that there's kind of, it can be give or take depending on the person and metabolism and whatever it is. So I have to take my meds like 6:30 a.m. if I want to be able to go to sleep at a decent time. And even if I take my meds that early, there's still this anxious feeling that I get of like, okay, what if I won't be able to sleep? And I cannot function without sleep. I am a mess without sleep. So I think that's a big part of the anxiety. And that in itself kind of has stopped me too, of like, oh, if I wake up at 7, like, day's done, can't do it. So I think probably the solution to that is just taking it consistently, because I know that some of the side effects and whatnot level out over time once you're kind of more consistent with it. And then the side effects for me are not debilitating or anything like that. Dry mouth, a reduction in appetite, which I've personally found I can curb by just like eating right away in the morning. The only thing is I sometimes get a bit of a crash, not necessarily like a I want to go to sleep type of feeling, but more of like just a physical body and emotional crash around like 4 to 5 p.m. But again, I kind of assume that that might level out the longer that I take the medication and whatnot. There's definitely a lot of things that help me with my ADHD just in general. Having organization systems in place, like my home is very, very organized. Everything kind of has a home so that I can find it when I need it. having sleep routines, like nutrition, all of those different things are super helpful for me. Do I follow them all the time? Absolutely not. That's something else that I want to get better at because I know it makes me feel good, but I think I struggle a lot with the fact that routines are super helpful in maintaining a good quality of life, and at the same time I find routines to be very constricting at times. So I want the quality of life from routines, but not like the lack of control, I should say, from routines. So there's always kind of like this back and forth going on in my brain, and it's still something that I am learning more about for myself, learning about what helps, what hurts, and it's a journey. It's going to be a lifelong journey. I think getting the diagnosis was something that was super helpful for me because it has allowed me to understand a lot of different parts about myself that I didn't even know were related. And I'm thankful that I have a lot of people in my life to help keep me accountable and check in on me and have tough conversations sometimes when needed about some of these things. So yeah, it's something that I'm going to continue to share. I'm going to continue to kind of update on if there's things that I find that are really working or not working. But if you guys have any questions, then I'm more than happy to answer it. If there's enough, I'll do a Q&A video or something like that. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.